Now, moving on. 10 years ago, it is doubtful you would have heard the name Ronnie Romero or known who he was. Then, one evening, Candice Knight gave Ritchie Blackmore a nudge and said, "Listen to this guy," who was performing Rainbow songs in a covers band. The rest, of course, is history. I remember seeing them on that two-tour run that they did. And despite some pretty overly harsh criticism, he performed superbly. Since then, to say he's been in demand is something of an understatement. From Rainbow to Michael Schenker, Sunstorm, he's now with Richie Faulkner and Elegant Weapons. And of course, there is the solo work. He's much in demand, not only due to his musical and vocal prowess, but because he remains a very humble, down-to-earth, and genuinely nice guy. He does, however, support Liverpool. And football is basically where we started talking when we met up a couple of days ago. And to take us there, here's a track from Raised on Heavy Radio. It's a reworking of a Rainbow classic, A Light in the Black. Obviously, what everybody needs to know about you, Ronnie, is coming from South America, right?
Yeah.
And coming from the great city of Santiago. Who was your team? Was it Colo Colo, Universidad de Chile, or Católica?
Universidad de Chile. That was the team. It was the team of my family from my mother's side, and it was the team of my grandfather. So yeah, it was something like a familiar thing.
So what was it like for you growing up then in Chile, in Santiago? I mean, South America has a great love of hard rock and heavy metal music. So what was it like for you as a kid growing up?
Well, I remember a very happy childhood, actually. We were a very modest family. My father was working Monday to Sunday all day, so he was a little bit absent at home. But I remember, to play with my friends and with my brother, to be out in the street playing until almost midnight. There was obviously at that time there was no internet, there was no phones, there was no nothing. So it was like a very like a typical childhood that you see on the movies. The kids are playing on the street and going on bikes and that kind of things. So it was great. Yeah.
See, your father was the one that turned you onto classic rock music, wasn't it? Because one of your first proper birthday present was a double cassette, things that we don't see anymore, a double tape of Made in Japan by Deep Purple. What did you think when you first got that? Did you think, why didn't he buy me some computer games? Or was it like, hey, this is like a great present?
Yeah, it was. I was a very simple kid. We were not raised like the kids nowadays that they want everything and they want it very quickly. My father, he used to listen this rock music, and so I grew up listening the same bands my father was listening to. And also I remember a good friend of mine in school. His father also, he was a huge rock fan. Every time that I was going to his house to play after school, this guy was listening music and telling us about listening to this band and listen to this. I remember the guy was a huge fan of Pink Floyd, and he was showing us the Dark Side of the Moon and all those records.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember my father gave me it was a tape, a double cassette of Made in Japan, Deep Purple Made in Japan, and that was the starting for me to listening rock music.
When did you actually realize that you could sing? What was it? Was it a music lesson you had at school? Was it just singing at home and someone said, "Hey, Ronnie, you've got a voice here. You need to be doing something with this"?
There were two moments in my life where I realized I could do something. First of all, when I was when I was a kid, a very young kid, and my family is a Protestant family, so we were going to the church every Sunday,
Yeah.
and normally you sing a lot in those meets. So yeah, and also my family, they are all musicians, so yeah, there was always around a chance to sing over some music. So yeah, from the beginning, I remember on the church I was singing every Sunday, and they told me that I have like a very nice voice. At that time, it was very high pitched because I was a kid, but. And then I remember once I was like 14, 15 years old, and a friend of mine in school, he, he asked me to record something, and he told me, I want to record the song, and I think you can sing it in a different way that you normally sing. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, I think you can do like kind of a raspy voice. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So he tried to teach me how to do it, and we did a song, and then it was like, okay, it was like a new word for me, like like okay, this is something like it's really easy for me to do, and it sounds cool. So
And from that moment on, then was music and being a musician, being a singer, was that the primary aim in your life?
Not really, in terms of growing up in Chile in a modest family. The goal you must have is to have a career in the university.
Yeah, yeah.
To try to have a better future, than your family. So the music was always like the hobby and the B side of on the things that you do on your free time and days off, that kind of stuff. It was always there,
Yeah, yeah.
but it was not a priority for me until I started to move to Europe. When I moved to Europe and I started to meet people and to have some opportunities to do music more professionally, it was always like something like I know I can do. I love it. I love to do it, but I'm this is not gonna make me feel the Frigidaire,
But literally, it's been this last decade that you've had this meteoric rise. Firstly,
Yeah.
with Lords of Black, you met Tony Anada back in 2012 when he was working as a promoter, wasn't he, for a Ronnie James Dio tribute gig?
Yeah. Yeah, that was it was pretty natural how we started. Like I liked it because there was no a suggestion from any record label. Nobody was saying you could do this because it's a contract, or you know. I was singing in a rehearsal room, and this guy came and he said, "I was listening to you singing, and I'm doing this Dio tribute concert, and I think you can sing a couple of songs." And we did it, and we had a really good chemistry working together on that. And then we started to work on the. We put together this band, Lords of Black, and and it was cool. It was something pretty natural, something like very comfortable for us to work together.
So, do you remember the day then? You get up in the morning, you're going about your daily business, and all of a sudden you get an email or call from the Rainbow office. Did you actually think at the time that this is a wind up? Somebody's joking here. Is it real?
Yeah, yeah, actually yes, because obviously it was totally unexpected. It's something like you never imagined that could happen to you. Obviously, I was. It was pretty early in the morning. Normally I'm like an early bird, so I wake up like 6 in the morning every day, and I was checking. At that time, the social was not like today that you have like you are all the time in the social.
Yeah,
At that time, it was
yeah.
like I was using Twitter. I remember, and I saw that somebody followed me. It was Candice Knight, and I was like, this name sounds familiar to me, you know. and uh, and then suddenly I got this message on Twitter, and at the same time I got a empty email from Richie, And then Candice told me on Twitter, Rich is trying to send you an email, but it looks like he cannot do it. So I'm gonna tell you what's going on. And yeah, it was pretty early in the morning, and it was very surprising. Actually, I thought it was a joke, and it was something like maybe it was somebody with a hiding camera trying to, trying to
Yeah.
laugh at me and my reaction or whatever. Because it was, it was a perfect scene of a guy who is a huge fan of this band and is getting the call from the guy himself, and with no, with any expectation. It was like a why me, it was like a, I don't know. And
She describes
yeah,
it. She describes them sat in bed one night, and Richie's reading a book, or he's doing something else, and she's sitting there going, "Hey, have you seen this guy here? Have you seen this guy? We must get in touch." When you realise when you realised it was real, I mean, this must have been some moment for you. I mean, because this isn't just an ordinary band
yeah,
or an ordinary musician.
yeah,
This is one of the legends of the genre. You know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it actually took me like 2 weeks to realize, and to actually start to think this is real. I was thinking and overthinking. At that time, I didn't. One of the most funny things is at that time I didn't talk English at all. So I thought at the beginning I spent like a week thinking that maybe I got the message wrong, and they were just telling me like some greetings, like they saw my videos and they liked it, and that's it, or maybe they are asking me to be a backing vocalist in the Blackmore's Night, or I don't know, I was not sure. And so yeah, then I started to talk with some friends, and they helped me with that, and then I got the call from the manager, and everything was more clear. But yeah, it took me, I think it took me a couple of weeks until I really like started to think, okay, this is happening.
You said that they liked you and you fitted basically because you were, quote, a normal guy. You had none of the rock star baggage with you. You weren't into drugs. You weren't into alcohol. So you were just a perfect fit for the time.
Yeah, I think there was exactly they were looking for. I think Richie was, and even now at this time, he doesn't want to deal with divas anymore. And he probably thought, if I'm gonna play this music again, I don't want to have anybody, breaking my balls around, or to be a pain in the ass. So it was just, yeah, we fit really really well because they have a very calm and quiet life,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I am that the same kind of people, and even today, I don't think that I am. I don't consider myself a rock star or a diva star, whatever it is. I consider myself a very normal guy who just, I do what I love, and I have lucky to do it, and call it a job. So I think it probably
What do you remember of the those rehearsals, the first rehearsals in New York when you got there and you're actually in the studio? Were there any nerves, or did you just glide right on in and just?
no. I mean, one of probably one of my biggest skills is, and all the people tells me the same. I never get nervous. I don't know.
Mm,
I don't know why. I don't know how. And even Candice, she was asking me once. We were up to play on the Sweden Rock, which is a festival for 40,000 people. And she was asking me, "Are you nervous?" And I was like, "No, I'm not nervous. I don't know why, but I feel very confident and I love to do this. So it's for me, it's like funny. It's not anything stressful. So it was the same on the first rehearsals. I was a little surprised in the way that obviously as a Rainbow fan, I was expecting to go there and to play Kill the King and go rehearsal, like a very heavy metal, and suddenly I found myself in the Richie's house basement, and we were playing acoustically a couple of songs, and it was very quiet. But yeah, it was at the end it was funny because I realized that it was doing that in purpose for a reason. So, but yeah,
You said that he's very different to what people think. What did you mean? I mean, people. I think people don't understand sometimes. He does have a great sense of
he
humor.
is a very funny guy actually. I mean, what I saw, what I learned from him during these 6 7 years we worked together, it was a thing he has is he has a character, and he plays this character in front of people who is outside his circle. So because he doesn't want to be bothered by people. So obviously he has this character of to be a tough guy, and is a very like a difficult person or whatever. But in the inside, in the circle, I can tell you I had really good times with him on the rehearsals, laughing. He was telling stories, and we were joking all the time. We were, you go to dinner and you have a beer, and he's telling stories until 3 a.m. in the morning, and it was very cool. And it actually was very, like kind to me. So
It's great to
yeah,
know that.
yeah.
It's great. It's great to know when. But when you've gone from that, as we said, relatively obscure status into the world's glare, did you have any idea of what was coming and how big a deal this was? Because they hadn't played rock music, or Rainbow hadn't been around for 2 decades and more. Everybody had been asking, "Oh, come on, come back, come play." So when it actually happened, this is a big, big deal.
Well, it was right before the to go on the stage on the first show we did in Lorelei in Germany. It was June of 2016, and obviously, for me as a Rainbow fan, I was expecting this also before they called me. So uh, when we went there, and the day of the show, when we saw there was a lot of people coming, the venue's wonderful. It's a wonderful venue in Germany on the riverside of the Rhine, on the Rhine River, and but then we went walking, from the dressing room to the stage to start the show, and suddenly we saw all these people in the backstage waiting to see us performing the songs, and you see this bass player from Aerosmith, the people from Thin Lizzy, and then in the audience are all those guys from Avantasia, and the guys from Sabaton, and the guys from, and it was Adrian Vandenberg there. It was this guitar player from Arch Enemy on the audience also. So there was not just Rainbow fans as normal people. There were a lot of famous musicians there waiting us to play, and I was like, oh, okay, this is something. I think.
Was there more stress involved coming to play in the UK as opposed to playing in Europe? It's a different type of fan, and it's a different type of, certainly a very different type of media.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember, the tickets sold out in minutes. You're playing these big arenas. But did you feel a different kind of pressure, say, playing in London and playing in Birmingham, perhaps?
Yeah, because mostly in the UK. We play mostly Germany, UK, and some other countries, but also even in Spain we play a show, and Scandinavia we play a couple of shows. And in the most of the shows, you can feel the people there going for nostalgia. Like they're not that they're not gonna criticize too much the performance because they know Rich is an old guy, and then he was out of the rock side playing the acoustic guitar for many years, and they go there and try to enjoy it. But in the UK, I saw the people, they were more like they put an eye on on what we were doing on stage. Like, they were like okay, the guys are here, Richie got these new guys, let's see what they can do.
I want to touch on something which is obviously a sensitive area for you. Now, you moved to Europe during this time, and you had to deal with some turbulence in your private life. And you said that you began to pay too much attention to the negative comments coming my way. And these affected you to the point where you contemplated suicide on a number of occasions. Now, this might surprise people because, you know, if you look back to those nights when you were performing back in 2016, 17, and 18, the overriding feeling, certainly when I was coming out of the arenas after watching, was highly positive. You know, if you look back, which I did, at the press reviews of the gigs, they too were high on praise. So how did the negativity overtake what should have been a great time in your life?
Well, there was a moment in my life. Um, it was not only the obviously the criticism, which is present every day in my job. You know, as a musician, you need to understand that people, they can like your music, or they can't. Maybe they don't like it, and that's okay. You know, and as I say before in different interviews, I'm pretty much okay with uh, criticism on my work because it's part of the game. But I remember at that time I was getting out of a divorce from my ex-wife. I was having problems to see my kid, and at that time he was 6 years old, 7 years old, and there was some legal problems in between, and then I started to, you know, you start to put an ear in the bad things, because of the stress, and you know, and I saw comments, and obviously because there was some people not talking just about my job and my music, but also they were talking about my personal life. You know, they were telling me things that they shouldn't. They shouldn't because they don't know me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
they were telling me that, like, even I was getting names like, the this guy's a criminal, and this guy is a bad father or whatever, you know. So that brings me a lot of sadness, and a lot of pressure, and at some point I couldn't find a way out from those feelings.
But there was a way out, and it was through the music, because I mean, literally from the moment you stepped on with Richie and Rainbow, from that moment on, I mean, you've literally been here, there, and everywhere. You know, I mean, we've done a few quite in-depth pieces with Michael Schenker, who talks in glowing terms of your ability not only to perform but as a person, as well as Ritchie Faulkner, of course, who's been talking lately about, you know, just what a genuine great guy you are. And that brings it round to the release of the new album. So the Raised on Heavy Radio. Now, how difficult was it to select tracks to go on to this? Because there are so many. And what was the first choice that you made?
Actually, in both albums, it was pretty easy for me to put the track list together. You know, obviously, when you do a covers album, and you've been listening rock music through the years, for the last 30, 40 years, it's impossible to put all the songs together. But it was pretty much the same thing that happens on the Rainbow shows. You know, when we were talking with Richie about which songs we're gonna play, and it was like, you know, you've been playing music for 50 years. It's impossible. If for Michael Schenker is the same, it's impossible to put all the songs in a show, you know, because it's just 2 hour show. It's the same with the albums. Okay, yeah. So I picked up the songs that probably brings me the most important memories on my life, because all the songs are related to a specific moment in my life in these two albums. So I remember the first one on the rock Race on Heavy Radio was the Deep Purple song, "The Battle Rages On," because it was a song I was listening with my father many times, and my father was a big fan of Deep Purple, and it was funny when we were listening to that album, he was telling me this album is so underrated, and the people, they don't talk too much about it, you know, and
Yeah.
and he has this great song with this great riff. So even when it's not a totally heavy song, uh, I thought, okay, I need to play this one, you know, because it brings me a nice memory with my father. So that was the first one.
It's an amazing track, and it's very true what he said, your father, is that this is a really underrated classic. I mean, as an opening track, as an opening riff, it is an amazing song. And to hear it live is something else. I would stick my neck out here and say the best tracks on the album, for me, and I've made a little note. Number one was the Battle Rages On. Number two was the Shining, off of the Sabbath Seventh Star album. And I mean, I have to say, you did a pretty phenomenal job of A Light in Black. I mean, that is a brilliant track. It really is a brilliant track.
Yeah, I mean, the Shining, it was a challenge, and for me it was the same thing with Battle Rages On. You know, I need to do a Sabbath song because it's a heavy album. You know, so you must have Black Sabbath, but I don't want to go with Ozzy or with Dio because everybody knows and everybody plays those songs. I want to go with somebody who is very underrated for me. Tony Martin is a very underrated singer. And this album, The Eternal Idol, is the same thing. So we went to this song, and actually we talked about with Chris Cafferty, who is the guy who played the guitar on this song, and he was very related to the song because he had the chance to listen the demo before the song was recorded by Black Sabbath. So he told me, I'm gonna play this one, and we did it. And actually, Tony Iommi liked it very much. Because he did a post in Twitter saying like this is a great version, and he shared the video.
I always laughed because talking about the Battle Rages On, was it Ritchie Blackmore referred to that or the album as The Cattle Grazes On?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, actually, it's very important in the way there was the last effort of the band to be together, before they split, definitely. So even in that way, it's very important. So yeah, this is something like must be more appreciated by.
Would you like to take a band out to do some live dates playing the covers albums?
Actually, we will. It's not gonna be only covers because we just leave the master for the third album of Ronnie Romero, which is gonna be original material, the old songs. And the idea is to go immediately in the summer. We have some shows and some festivals already, like going as Ronnie Romero band and playing the songs from the new album and doing some of the covers. Yeah.
Well, because you're just looking ahead to that, because you've got Elegant Weapons and you've got festival dates lined up there as well. And I saw you were added to Steelhouse, which is a pretty big festival. They have a great lineup. So you've got a pretty hefty summer.
Oh yeah, it's going to be very busy. but it's cool coming out from the pandemic.
So tell me, have you had then any recent contact with Ritchie? Is there any chance that we might see you guys back out there? Maybe just for a once more before we finally say farewell?
No, we didn't. We don't have too much contact, but normally, we talk each other for Christmas or New Year's Eve or whatever, or for birthdays or that kind of stuff. But I don't feel that going to happen again. That's my feeling. We were up to do a tour before the pandemic, and suddenly all this COVID situation happens, and I think it was the perfect scenario for Ritchie because one of the things he loves the most is to be away from people. So that was perfect. Pandemic was perfect for him.
He does do, by the way, he is very funny on the home videos. He and Candice did those things where they would take requests from people live on air. It was really very, very funny.
Yeah, they're very much into that, and into Blackmore's Night, and I don't think that won't happen. But even let me tell you, even if it would happen again, and Ritchie wants to play more shows again, probably. I mean, my feeling is that I don't want to do it anymore. I don't feel that I can do it again. I think that's not my place anymore. Playing with Ritchie,
that's interesting.
Even if I feel very grateful the opportunity he gave me to have a career. But I think I wouldn't do it again.
That's very interesting because we thought as well that you may actually do an album with them. I mean, I remember
Yeah.
when they were drip feeding these songs out. I mean, you did Black Sheep, and you did the Sign, which had a real sort of early
Yeah.
Rainbow, sort of 76 to 78, and you just thought, hey, this is actually really very good, and you're waiting for more, and it doesn't happen.
Yeah, because every time it's like it depends. It depends how Richie wakes up in the morning, you know. So
And tell me, I was going to say one thing that might surprise people about you is outside of the music you're playing and recording, your favorite vocalist, one of them, is Nat King Cole.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because why?
Well, my grandfather, uh, uh, actually, he was the stepfather of my father. Um, he was a saxophonist, you know. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and he plays. He used to play in a big band, and he was listening all this kind of jazz and soul music. And it was. I remember when I was a kid, when I was 3 or 4 years old. It was every time that we were going to my grandparents' house. He was a very intellectual guy also. So we were going to this room, which is a kind of a library in the house, and the guy was playing some vinyls with jazz music, and the most of the time was Nat King Cole, Nathaniel Adams Cole, you know,
Yeah,
how
yeah,
we
yeah,
used to
yeah.
call it, and you know it teach me about Nat King Cole, but on the piano side because he was a great piano player. But then I fell in love with the vocals. So I have even great memories from that music. So I think it's more like an emotional thing than technically my favorite singer. Like because of the voice. I think it's because it's more related with my childhood.